I actually, there's a guy I've been following lately. His name's Myron Golden.
Yep, the GOAT.
Yeah,
He's
he's
the
an
GOAT.
amazing voice. And he actually has this revelation of how God has he started branding,
Yes, he did.
and what is branding? Essentially, branding is when your words line up with your actions.
That's right.
Because that's what God does.
Yeah.
And so there's a scripture in the Old Testament that says, he who has a good name. And that word name, it's equated to fame.
Yep.
And so people know you because of your name, but how do people know you? Because you did what you said.
Exactly.
And he says that if you want to be anything like God, just keep your word.
Yep.
Because that's what God does.
Bro, that's
the biggest brand play you can have.
Facts.
This is Branding Like a Pro.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm your guy, Denis Boateng. This is Branding Like a Pro. And today we have an amazing guest. Y'all know we talk about branding without the boring. And I'm gonna talk about my guest a little bit. I gotta gas up my guest. So he is, in my opinion, and you'll make your opinion as well. He's like a YouTube genius when it comes to building content, the gear that you need to use, how you should set yourself up to win on YouTube, how to brand yourself on YouTube, and just ideas and business advice. In my opinion, he's the GOAT. All right. So when you guys hear about this guy, you're going to think he's the GOAT too. And that guy is Omar El-Takrori.
Dude, what an intro. Appreciate that.
I have to bring the sauce. But also too, for the people who are watching this, they're probably wondering like, yo, Dennis, your setup look different right now. Like, where you at? Guys, we are at the video department. Okay. This is Omar's studio, which, by the way, amazing. I feel special being in here right now. So when did this idea come about? Because, dog, this is the feng shui, okay?
Dude, it's an honor to have you being one of the first podcasts, legitimate, that we're filming here. But, over the course of the last 3 years or so, I've really made myself the guy on YouTube who helps people with their studio, and over those years, it's always been in the context of your home, loft, or office, And I've been on my entrepreneurial journey since 2016, and that journey started with me, learning how to work out of coffee shops, and then getting, with C19, getting really good at working from home. And I just felt like, dude, if I'm gonna be the YouTube studio guy, if I'm gonna be the guy that's helping people with their studios, I need a studio.
Nah, that's facts, bro. I remember I was just sharing with you not too long ago is like the way how I even stumbled upon your content was because I was having a hard time trying to figure out what my home studio could look like for me to be able to build like high quality content. And I kept saving your videos, and then here we are.
So cool.
And now you have your space too. Where did that come from? Outside of, you're working out of coffee shops and doing different stuff, but a lot of people are doing that, but they're not thinking like, yo, I need to help people and I need to build a studio.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it on a personal standpoint, because I think if you're in that journey and you're, maybe a solo creator or you're working for yourself, finding where you, are best, environments are so important, even as a believer. I believe like God creates environments to be able to do things in people's lives. And so I've always been cognizant of my environment. And I think, something I've just never been able to experience is completely separating myself from the comfort of a home to work. And I've never seen the level of productivity that I can have. And so a lot of that decision making to just pull the plunge and invest all this money into a space like this came from a place of knowing that I'll probably 10x my productivity, just being able to separate myself in a physical standpoint. And then also in a, aesthetic standpoint. I wanted to create a space that I want to be in, I want to hang out in, I want to have people at, and I want to create in. And so I'm that's what I'm hopeful for. I've not even officially moved in yet. I still need to find an internet provider. But no, I think it was a move to just be more productive. And I think that's the question people should ask is like, is the way I'm creating conducive of being the most productive?
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Especially too, it makes me think about how we all went through the pandemic, like working from home, I mean, people work from their beds. You're on Zoom trying to make sure your environment is looking clean for whatever meeting, or you're just trying to blur everything out. But then also too, for content creators, is like your spot gotta, you gotta have some type of, aesthetic, especially that may match your brand or the
100.
content that you're talking about.
And that's communicated over video. If your setup isn't aligned with like your personality and even the content you're sharing, there's a disconnect there.
No, that's facts.
And if you're an interior designer and behind you is a barn with like cows, I don't know. And that's just the place you're filming. Like, cool that you're going for it, but it doesn't. There's not an alignment there.
Yeah, there's a disconnect.
And so there is a level of that is very important. And I equate it to just like the days where we all used to work in a physical place, like everyone.
Yeah.
And there was always someone that dressed really nice every day or fresh, and you were like waiting to see what their outfits were. Like, then what are they going to wear today?
Yeah.
And I think there's so much about showing up and how important it is, and why, just even if you're not a video creator, but you're someone who is on Zoom calls, you're someone who coaches online, that having a dialed in setup, it actually is like you dressing up for work. You standing out on a visual standpoint, and that your audio sounds better than everybody else's. You just got more attention. You got more people to lean in, and it's just the power of actually showing up on video really clean and crisp.
And even with all that, like all these characteristics and the different layers of that, makes me think about what we talk about all the time is branding. Like, I mean, your video is your product, and you're pushing it all the time, trying to get these customers, viewers, so on and so forth, to buy into what it is that you're talking about, what you're teaching, what you're selling. So I think you make an amazing point there. So y'all, make sure your studio's looking, pretty much it aligns with what you're about. I want to ask you a question regarding to brand awareness, because I think that you've done that so well. Also with the Think Team, you guys are the leaders, you know what I'm saying, of what you're doing. Like, you really like built your own compartment. You're doing what you're doing. You're killing it, not just as a team, but also individually too. Where does brand awareness come in for you? Because you work with a team, but then you also have your own thing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you create that? Because I mean, for me, I know you.
Yeah.
We see each other.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of your brand or who you are, what you do. But for everybody else, it's like, how were you able to build that as you were trying to figure things out?
Yeah, I think when it comes to brand awareness, I think the biggest word, or I think the biggest brand play that anyone can do, is to just show up consistently. So like, how are people going to be aware of you if you don't even show up? And then if you do show up and you show up seldomly, then that communicates to your brand. It communicates that maybe a lack of care, maybe a lack of intention, or a lack of seriousness.
Yeah.
And so I think it's actually been the consistency that we have adopted in Think Media, but also in my efforts on Instagram and stuff, that the goal is to be consistent. If we can just show up consistently for people, we will create a brand where it's reliable. People can trust us. They want to trust us. They want to do business with us. And so I think it's been a move to be more consistent and out consistent everybody else.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the play in regards to trying to be more, have more brand awareness.
Yeah. Now that's good. I also want to tie in too, for people who don't know, that you're a pastor as well.
Yeah.
I was watching an interview of yours that you did, and you talked about how there was times where it's like, yo, this is what I do, but I'm also a pastor here. It's like, you can't separate the two, right? And I think you talked about, hey, maybe you're gifted at doing multiple things,
100.
right? So the question within that is like, when are you doing too much though? You know what I'm saying? Because someone like yourself, I feel like you're very observant. You pay attention, you're spirit led, you know what I'm saying? You know how to move in that space and know when, hey, I'm supposed to do this, I'm not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
But with someone who's like, yeah, I'm trying to build something, I'm trying to get to the bag, I'm trying to build content, I like sneakers, but then I also like, I don't know, books or whatever. Yeah. Like, there's so much that they're trying to do. How do they find that ground level where they can be good at what they do? They can build a brand without feeling that hustle or that tug, that back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, on a personal standpoint, I think knowing that I have a call to do two different things, that I am the person that's fulfilling that call, that I need God for that, right? And so I think the word that people must grasp is the word grace, because when you feel like you're going against the tide or the stream, then there may not be a grace there.
Yeah.
So God graces you where he calls you. And because I felt that that's literally my calling, that it seems like I'm doing so much. And I get that question a lot. Like, dude, how do you balance both?
Yeah.
Well, number one, I have the grace to do it. But number two, it's not balance. It's rhythm.
That's good.
Yeah. There's a difference between that because there's going to be ebbs and flows. Like some seasons I'm a little more pastoral. Like we're about to go into our small group semester at our church. And it takes a lot of work to onboard leaders, train them up, and get it going till like the group semester can like commence. Yeah. And so I'll probably take a little back seat on doing other things, in my business and stuff. But that's because I'm called. So I'm willing to do that because I can trust God with the business part as I leave it, and then do the ministry stuff. And the same goes if pastor asks me to preach, if like, hey, can you take on this Sunday? All right, that week I'm gonna study my stuff out. I'm just gonna go in. And I'm gonna put aside other things that I want to be doing, but all that to say, I'm aware when the grace lifts, that's something that you should be aware of, because you don't want to go against that stream.
Yeah.
It's because it's literally like God telling you, bro, that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But not to negate hard work. Like, it still means that, like, yes, time in, but you should be pumped about the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would.
No, that's good. It makes me think about the culture of content, on how it's so much like pump out as much as you can. Like you got to do this, you got to do that, but it may not even be in line with who you are as a person.
Right.
So then next thing you know, you feel yourself being stressed out. You're worrying about how many views or comments and all that stuff. And it's like, well, maybe that's not what you're supposed to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't align with your brain.
Dude, and just to think, like, as the number one guy who would tell you to, like, you need to be making videos, you don't need to be making videos. Like, if you want to work at a coffee shop, if you want to work at a library, if you want to do something, like, and if you're really good at it, you don't have to make videos. I have a friend, one of my best friends, his dad, like, fixes wells in Washington. Like he maintains them, and he's a multimillionaire. Yeah. Has zero marketing.
Yeah. That's what he does.
That's what he does. And and he's good at it. But I think when it comes to just trying to, that's probably people's biggest goals this year on social and on YouTube is, I just want to be more consistent. Yeah. I think you have to reverse engineer how to get there. And what I mean by that is there something in the process of your creating that is a stumbling block? And if the gear is a stumbling block, you got to go down to the smartphone. Yeah. If the editing is a stumbling block, you got to get good at live streaming, or maybe just get good at doing one takes or minimal edits. Yeah. So in regards to my Instagram, I felt like I wanted to take it serious in 2022. I felt like now's the time, Omar, like 5 reels a week at minimum. And I was like, well, I'm not going to create reels. I can't create the content for my Instagram. And here's the unlock. The unlock was, don't create the content, just be the content. And so now I'll just make sure that anytime I'm giving game, there's a camera rolling off to the side. Perfect. If you watch most of my Instagram reels, it's usually not me looking into the camera and like saying something. Yeah. And so that has allowed me to be consistent. Yeah. So reverse engineer, what can I be consistent in? I can take what I'm doing on a live stream, just make sure a camera's rolling, and then I'll have content for a while on IG. Another strategy is maybe you want to do a video podcast, because how many things are you going to get from a 40-minute conversation?
So much content.
Yeah, you're going to get so much content, which will keep you to be consistent. And so there's so many ways that you can actually find that for you. Yeah. And I think that's where it's really important. But don't embark on this journey just to find something to be burnt out in.
Nah, facts. Yeah. You gotta do what you love, or what you're educated in, what you have experience in. And which brings the question of, what do you think about, people actually being their best product, right? Because I feel like I had a conversation with my wife Danielle, like maybe like 2 days ago, as something was going on. I was like, man, if this was 3 years ago and I didn't get the response that I needed, I would have been devastated. Like, they didn't repost my video. They didn't do this. But now I post because I like it. You know what I mean? I was even telling her, I'm like, yo, when I post up, I'm just going to like my own post.
100.
I'm not going to wait for somebody else. Like, did you ever have a time where you had trouble with that? Like, even like where you're creating content and you're hard on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, man, like, I know I have this information, but the rest of the world ain't really tapped in with me yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was when I was doing a lot of photography. You know, that was like 2013 to 2015. I did a lot of photography because I liked the money side of it in regards to like weddings. I'm like, the idea of like making a video and then having it edited after a wedding when I had a super simple photography workflow. But there was a time on Instagram where photographers were like getting crazy love.
Yes.
And then when the 10K swipe up, I was like, dude, why am I not at 10K?
Bro,
like, what are we even,
good.
you know?
Wow, I remember that. Yeah.
And I vividly remember that and feeling that, you know, but kind of what you said, I kind of got to a place where I just wanted to be good at creating content. And so much to the point as like, I do care. I think my content is legit. Like, I think I'm really good at what I do, but on a humility standpoint, I study myself. I'm literally like on my TV, my wife and Ruby are playing in the background, and I'm just watching my videos on Think Media. Like, how can I be better? Like, okay.
Yeah, running back the game, like you just watching tape.
Exactly. And so I think there's so much about believing in your product, believing in your content. Because if you don't, then nobody else will.
That's right.
So it was when I got to the place that where like, I know a lot of things that people don't. And so I have something to offer this world.
That's right.
And I believe in it. It actually has to start with me.
Yeah.
Because then the conviction will be conveyed in the content.
Yeah.
It's a bar.
It is.
Yeah. But if you don't believe in it, then people will sense that. And
Yeah.
so, but I've learned this. I've learned that like just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're a good teacher at it.
That's true. That's true.
And growing in your communication as a teacher is probably one of the best skills you can possess moving forward, because there's a lot of financial upside if you can be really good at teaching, taking what you know and creating frameworks, formulas, saying it in plain terms for a third grader could understand. I've found that those people are the people that are really growing big audiences really quickly.
Yeah. And even with you mentioning the teaching thing, I feel like just social media period has turned so many people into teachers.
Yeah.
Like, not even on purpose though. Like, literally somebody could be like, yo, this is how I tie my shoes.
Yeah.
And they could be making videos every single day on how they tie their shoes. Next thing you know, people will be asking questions like, well, how did you do that technique? It's like, oh, I just do this.
Right.
You know? And then they become a teacher. Next thing you know, they got a course on how to tie their shoes.
100.
Like, so, like, do you think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you become a teacher, you become the fastest learner.
Yeah.
Because you're in the teaching mode. You know, like my knowledge on cameras is like I have a Rolodex in my brain with the features and the different things that cameras do when you overshoot this, that, and the other. But that has come just by me being the teacher and me seeking that information first. And also when you are a teacher, you know, you're usually the first person to be criticized.
That's right.
But those criticisms is a way of getting the right information. It's like, thank you for telling me the right thing. I now know.
Yeah.
It's like the bad information comes to you and it's like, cool, now I can move on.
No, that's good.
It's a really cool thing that happens when you put yourself out there as a teacher. Yeah.
You got to put yourself out there. You mentioned cameras. What was the first camera you bought with your own money?
Such a funny story because I made the wrong purchase. So like I used to follow this guy named Levi Maestro.
Okay.
You remember him? He's from LA.
Yeah.
He was creating really cool vlogs in 2007, 2008.
Was he on Tumblr at all? I was a Tumblr.
Yeah, I mean, he had a Tumblr, but he would post his vlogs on Vimeo.
Okay, yeah, I was a Vimeo. I was heavy on Vimeo.
Yeah, he had a big, his really popped off because he got a pair of Yeezys, like the first Yeezy, Nike Air Yeezys.
Yeah.
And did a vlog around it, but like just a really cool high quality. And then that's how I found out about Dom Kennedy. That's how I found out about like a lot of like LA culture in that regard, like the blog era of music. And he used the camcorder, and I was like, dude, I want to be like Levi Maestro, you know. And so I got a like a $1,600 camcorder, and I was like, it's not giving me that blurry background. That's literally the only reason I didn't like. That's why I didn't like it.
The bokeh. right?
Yeah, the background blur. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want this camera anymore. I want the blurry background. And so I ended up bringing it back, and they said if you return it, literally the day after, they're like, we're going to have to take off 30-40% or something like that. And I was like, that's a big loss.
Yeah.
So I ended up being my first sell on eBay.
Hey, eBay's there. Yeah.
And then I got the Canon T3i. And that's when I started learning like the DSLR revolution of things. The Canon Nifty 50 on a crop censored camera. It's like 90 millimeters. It was always
were you like looking stuff up on like YouTube or what?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was watching, there was this guy named Jacob Owens who would put music videos. He would title it like, Super Duper Kyle. What is it?
Yeah.
It would be like his Lemonade remix, Canon T3i.
Yeah.
And so I was able to see what he was
Yeah.
able to do with a camera like that, make like really great music videos.
Yeah.
And it's cool that Jacob Owens is still doing his thing. Like he has multiple studios and serial entrepreneur and stuff.
Yeah.
But it all started with that. Yeah. And I mean, YouTube University started for me, where I started like really trying to dial in things like that. What can I do with this camera?
Now that's fire, bro. I had to ask because I know your knowledge on cameras is crazy. So I had to ask, like, bro, what was your first camera? But that is a funny story. I think for me too, like my cousin was really great with cameras. I was just good with like content ideas or like, yo, we should do this. Or it's like I've always had an eye for it, but getting behind the camera has always been kind of one of those things where I've been kind of like, nah, I'll just let somebody else do it. Just because I respect the shooter. I respect the shooter so much, and I just don't feel like I would be as much of a great shooter instead of the person that has the vision of what the shot may look like. So, but let's talk about too, like just culture, because you mentioned Dom Kennedy, the Yeezys, and all of that. Man, what's in your closet? Because I gotta say, bro, you be fresh all the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Respectfully, you be fresh.
I appreciate that.
I
hope people know I care.
You do care. What is your go-to these days? You know what I'm saying? Like when you got to get fresh to pull up to the studio, or you going to run your errands, you going to a concert, whatever.
Dude, this is the fit right now. I actually got rid of all my J's last year, just because I wanted a clean house, and I wanted not like a clean house, but I wanted to clean house my shoes, and just consolidate what I had. But right now, like this is how the fit goes. You ready? I have collegiums. These are new shoes made in Italy by a friend named Nick, and he is pricing made in Italy shoes at a really low price, but then also taking like cultural inspiration to create these. So I'll slap on a pair of those, and then as weird as it sounds, Tilly's, like the place that has like skater surfer gear, they have a proprietary Dickies fit called the Slim Taper.
The Slim Taper Dickies. Okay.
Slim Taper Dickies. And so I put those on. It has a nice little crop. It goes well with the collegiums. And then usually putting on like a boxy tee. I like one from Lululemon. It's actually a women's shirt.
Hey, bro, you gotta do what you gotta do.
This is how nuanced I care about clothing. The cut of the shirt is the same as Fear of God's third collection Inside Out tee.
Okay.
I
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they have, it's like the hem is raw, like, but the fit is amazing and doesn't change shape. And then I'll usually throw on either a workman's jacket or a denim jacket, a hat, and then I'll call it a day.
Bro, you done dropped game right there. Now everybody's about to start like getting the Omar, like, dressing tips. But no, I just had to ask because I see, and it all, once again, goes into branding. When you step out, you're a brand.
No, we're not.
I truly believe that. Like when people, my goal is to get more people to believe it. To believe that they are a brand. So it's like, what story are you telling? How are you stepping in front of people? What is your message?
Dude, the crazy thing about that reality is, this is something that like was a big unlock for me last year, is that everyone is afforded a personal brand.
Exactly.
Like it's crazy.
Exactly.
But you only get one.
You only get one.
And so making sure that what you do in life and how you show up and how you look and whatever you're doing, that it aligns with what you want, want to be known for. Because, so many people want to go viral, but if you're viral for the wrong thing, your personal brand just took a hit.
Bro, that stock is just kind of,
exactly.
Now you got to rebuild again.
You got to rebuild it. Like, and the probably the most powerful thing about branding is when people think about the thing, do they think about you? And I hope that when people think about, I need to create content. I need to build out a studio. I need help with the edit. Like, I hope that I come in mind. I need help with
Trust me.
workflow.
We do.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But
Trust me, we
but
do.
if I love coffee,
Yeah.
and I can share those things on my stories and see the things that I'm interested in, as it is all encompassing, but like, don't mess up the one shot you have with your personal brand. Like, take it serious,
And I think that also goes into just like really getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
Branding is a journey. Like, yes, if you want to talk about the dictionary definition and everything, of course, like your reputation, what people are saying when you're not in the room. But I truly believe like it goes even deeper than that. Like, it's a journey to really get to know yourself and being original to who you are. Like, look, if you like Legos, bro, like Legos and let the world know
100
that you like Legos.
Yeah.
Because then you're a brand that happen to likes Legos, and then Legos gonna hit you up. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just, that's how my mind works. Because even too, like, I was up late, like maybe 3 nights ago or something like that. And I was just writing stuff down, and I was like, where did branding really come from? And I just thought about it. I was like, oh, attention. Without attention, there's no branding.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's for. You pretty much want to take advantage of the attention to show people what your gifts are, or being able to help or educate people, right? So it's like being a good steward over that.
I actually, there's a guy I've been following lately. His name's Myron Golden.
Yep. The GOAT.
Yeah, he's
the
an
GOAT.
amazing voice. And he actually has this revelation of how God has he started branding,
Yes, he did.
and what is branding? Essentially, branding is when your words line up with your actions.
That's right.
Because that's what God does.
Yeah.
And so there's a scripture in the Old Testament that says, he who has a good name. And that word name, it's equated to fame.
Yep.
And so people know you because of your name, but how do people know you? Because you did what you said.
Exactly.
And he says that if you want to be anything like God, just keep your word.
Yep.
Because that's what God does.
Bro, that's
And that's the biggest brand play you can have.
Facts, dog.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm learning, and I've been like, literally, I think I've had my moment where I was just like, oh shoot, all these things in my life are happening because of this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this is my passion. Now I understand why I have these certain passions.
Yeah.
And why I'm attracted to certain things is because of this.
Right.
I want to kind of move forward to just talk a little bit too about just being a family man, like having a balance within your life or rhythm, like you explained, like, being a pastor, having a video department, working at Think, but also being a husband and a father. What is that like, man, for you? How do you keep that rhythm, make sure that your family's good, that y'all are happy, taken care of?
Yeah. I mean, on a practical level, I think a lot of it, something that's so helpful is just my daily encounter, my morning routines, that I take some time every day to meet with God. And it allows me, like, because I am spirit-led, because I trust the Holy Spirit, I can, there's this discernment I have.
Yeah.
And so, number one, just I want to be an example, like an example where other fathers can look at me, other husbands could look at me and say, what is it that you do to create, a really strong marriage? And then more than that, like, parent in a godly way.
Yeah.
And I didn't have like the best example growing up, but that's why I'm thankful for the Holy Spirit, because he leads me and guides me in that. And I mean, I think the simple thing is honestly, like, Amanda's my best friend.
Yeah.
Our lives are so intertwined. We're going to celebrate 10 years of marriage in May, which is insane.
Well, early congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being so transparent to share the littlest things that are going through my mind. And even when it's insignificant things, but also when it's things I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
Like, hey, babe, I can't stop looking at booties right now. For some reason, this just took a turn.
No, it's all good.
But just
it's reality.
Just telling her that, because if I hold that in and then I let that seed settle and it starts to bear a fruit that I don't want, but she doesn't have anything around it, then she can't pray for me.
Yeah.
She can't. We can't do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And so I think really just being so open with everything that's going on in my mind. And there's actually a scripture where David has a best friend, and his best friend like gives him all his weapons, and it's this picture of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, David, you could take me out. And what's powerful about that is Amanda could take me out.
Yeah.
Like, she can tell people like the things I struggled with in our marriage. Like, she could tell you like, and I would probably, I don't know what I'll be doing now if that were the case. And the powerful thing about that though is I live now in a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
A freedom to just exhale, you know, and I could lay my head at night, knowing that somebody on this planet knows what's going through my heart, what's going through my emotions, what's going through my mind, and vice versa. But we're able to do that together. And so, we obviously the commitment of marriage with the person that you choose to do that with, and making it, you know, your main priority. And so, although I have all these things going on, they have my priority.
Yeah.
I drop anything when she's willing, when she asks.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you watch Ruby at 3 p.m.? Yes, I can. You know, and so. I don't know. I mean, just it is. I mean, that's where it kind of stems from. It's just like I have nothing if I don't have them.
Yeah.
Everything that everybody sees is a fruit of what is happening in my home.
And then that's why I wanted to ask, because as someone who's like, you're being a leader, content creator, like there's so much going on around you. Like if you're not grounded, like you could get lost in the sauce.
100.
You know what I mean? Like I'm on YouTube all the time. Like I'm probably on YouTube more than I am on anything else, any other social media. Exactly.
Yeah.
YouTube was up. But it's easy to get caught up in, what is this person doing? What they got going on? Their content, this, that, and the third.
Right.
And then leads down into a different foxhole. Next thing you know, you're looking different things up, and it's just like, oh shoot, hold on, reality. Am I grounded? Am I still me? Am I being pulled a different direction? And all of that. And that, like I said, that's why I wanted to ask, because I think that that's a conversation that's not happening.
Yeah.
With content creators or people who want to create content, it's easy to get lost in the sauce.
100. Yeah. And I mean, that's why prioritizing character, like my character is my main concern.
Yeah.
You know, those morning times that I have with God it's a good resets. It's good reality sets that, you know, reminding that this is not on me, this is on him.
Yeah.
And I trust him, you know, but yeah, I mean, as a YouTube connoisseur myself, you know, like you can go down these rabbit holes, but I actually use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
You know, the way I consume YouTube is I'm watching it from a lens of, why did I click on that? How come that title just grabbed me? That thumbnail color, the colors in that thumbnail actually got my attention.
Yeah.
And so I actually watch why. I mean, I'm watching with a lens of like, how did this video get me to click on it?
That's good.
And so I'm kind of just always studying. I'm always just learning, you know.
That's good.
It's not as much entertainment, because I'm actually just usually clicking on educational content when I'm watching YouTube.
I'm doing that with Netflix actually. So instead of just, I don't know, first of all, when I get on Netflix, I get overwhelmed. It's so much content. So what I do, I just go on the search bar, I type in branding, and literally documentaries or anything I save those. That's my next video I'm gonna make, recommending. But like, just to keep myself like, I'm learning at least. I'm not just sitting here just watching whatever, but I'm learning maybe why did they say this? Why did they use this shot? Or, you know, why all that stuff. But I guess, you know, we're gonna wrap up soon, but I want to ask you a couple questions before we finish. What's next for you, bro? I know you got this dope space.
Yeah.
But what's going on? What are people going to be able to pull up? What you got going on?
Yeah. So the vision for the video department is I do want to create a clothing line, like clothes I want to wear.
Yeah.
You know, I want to do that, but that isn't like the primary goal.
Yeah.
The real reason I started the video department was to create a sub community of people I could serve at a deeper level.
Yeah.
And so I just recently launched a group coaching program for, honestly, like business owners, entrepreneurs, creators, and also, you know, even people in ministry, people that have something to lead people to.
Yeah.
You know, the tough thing about the grind of becoming a content creator from nothing is not having something that you sell or offer or a service. But if you can throw content onto your business with already a great product or service, you can actually see a huge upside in your ROI. And so. Yeah. And so that's why I created the video department, and and with that, I plan on doing like 1-day workshops. And so the only time people will know about this place is if I know you're coming. Because I don't want people to just like pull up on me.
Not facts though.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I watched Casey Neistat's blog a few weeks ago, and he has this thing on his door, and it says like, no soliciting, don't knock, don't do this, because he's living in New York.
Yeah.
And in the same way, like the door here is just open, to the air. And
secret locations.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually going to put on the window on some Virgil stuff like undisclosed.
Oh, that would be fire.
Yeah,
You should
in
do
quotes.
that. Yeah, no,
just so people know that we're like, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm leaving like the sign from the business that used to be here, because I don't care about what's happening outside. But no, these 1-day workshops, I want to get 10, 15 people in a room on a Saturday, have lunch, but also teach them on some content game and things like that. And splitting my time currently between Las Vegas and Dallas, Fort Worth. I have a friend out there who has a studio, and that we can just do trainings like that. So it really is just an intimacy when it comes to community building, because I've seen the power of like, reaching a ton of people, but then there's so much upside just meeting people, shaking hands, and actually seeing progress.
Yeah. Now that's good. I know I'm excited for what you got going on. I know we're gonna take part of your workshops because we believe in you, but we also believe in what you've been able to do for us. I mean, we've been watching your videos for a long time now, and we see how it has grown us, but also our content. So thank you for that. And then I guess the last question is, when you gonna let me pull up and do another interview?
Bro, literally, if you want to interview somebody else in this spot, I got you.
Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, bro, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This studio is insane. So thank you for the setup.
So we were at a barber shop, and all people don't know. We were at D Witters was cutting our hair, and I was waiting for my cut, and we were just talking about the different studios in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I kind of want to do that. And it's just crazy. It's like, it starts with hearing it first, then saying it, and then just plowing.
Yeah, no, facts.
Here we are.
Facts. It's here. Literally, it was not even like, maybe like 3 months ago?
Yeah, like 3 months.
Jeez.
Crazy.
But yeah, man, so I'm honored. Thank you so much for your time. Y'all make sure y'all tap in with Omar. Where can they find your social media, YouTube, all that?
Yeah, IG, just Omar El-Takrori. Just type at Omar EL, and then I'll show up.
Yeah.
And then
and
then on YouTube, Think Media. We have a ton of daily content on how to be better at YouTube strategy, but also the gear, the editing, and all those things that surround content creation.
Perfect. All right, guys, thank y'all so much. I'm your brand guy, Denis Boateng. This has been Branded Like a Pro, where we teach you about branding without the boring. So thank y'all so much. Make sure you subscribe, leave your comments down below, and have a good one. Peace.